You probably believe most of your decisions are logical, well thought out, intentional. But what if they're not? What if many of the choices you make every day are automatic, unconscious, and quietly shaping your life without you realizing it? Like just yesterday, I was driving home from the grocery store. I pulled into my driveway, put the car in park, and realized I had absolutely no memory of the last 3 miles.
Oh, yeah, I know that feeling.
Right, like none at all. It was like I had completely blacked out, yet somehow I had successfully stopped at every red light, navigated around this guy on a bicycle, and steered a 2-ton machine through traffic. And my conscious mind was uh, just off daydreaming about some email I needed to send. How is it even possible that we can perform such complex, dangerous tasks while just completely checked out?
Well, it's a slightly terrifying experience when you actually stop and reflect on it.
Yeah, it really is.
But it perfectly illustrates the central premise we are exploring today. I mean, we all walk around with this profound conviction that we are the conscious authors of our lives, right? Dictating every choice, every action. But the reality of human cognition is that your brain is fundamentally operating on two distinct tracks. And the one you identify as the conscious, deliberate thinker is very rarely the one actually driving the car.
Okay, let's unpack this. If I am not driving the car, who or what is? I mean, are we talking about some hidden subconscious entity pulling the strings?
Not an entity exactly, but a specific mode of mental processing. It helps to think of them as two metaphorical characters operating within your mind. We call them System 1 and System 2.
Okay, system one and system two.
Yeah, so System 1 is fast, it's automatic, intuitive, and completely effortless. It's the mode that allowed you to drive home without thinking.
So the autopilot.
Exactly. And System 2 is the slow, deliberate, effortful part of your mind. It's the conscious reasoning voice in your head right now that is actively trying to comprehend what I'm saying.
Wait, but I feel like I'm using system two all day long. I mean, I'm making decisions at work, I'm reasoning through problems, planning my schedule. You're saying my conscious self is actually taking a back seat?
Almost entirely, actually. System 1 dominates your daily life.
Really?
Yeah, it has to, just for pure biological survival. You see, mental exertion, engaging that System 2, is physically and metabolically costly.
Like it burns calories.
Yes, your brain consumes an enormous amount of glucose when it concentrates. Evolutionarily speaking, burning precious energy, agonizing over every single detail of your environment was a great way to hesitate and, well, get eaten on the savannah.
Right.
So your brain operates on what psychologists call the law of least effort.
I want to push back on that a little bit, though. I get that deep thinking is hard, but it doesn't, hurt. It's not like running a marathon or lifting heavy weights at the gym.
Well, actually, your body reacts exactly as if it is under intense physical strain. Let's try a quick mental sprint to prove it.
Okay, I'm ready.
Imagine a string of 4 random digits. Let's say 5294.
5294.
Now, I want you to mentally add the number 3 to each of those digits and tell me the new sequence. But, and this is the hard part, you have to do it to a steady, fast rhythm, like a ticking metronome.
Oh, wow. Okay, so 5294. Adding 3 to each. 8, 5, 12. No, wait, just a single digit, right? So 2.
Yes, just the last digit.
Okay, so 2 and then 7. So 8, 5, 2, 7.
Perfect. Now imagine doing that continuously with a completely new string of random numbers thrown at you every 2 seconds for 2 solid minutes.
I would absolutely hate that.
Most people do. If we had a specialized camera focus on your eyes while you did that, we would physically see your pupils dilate up to 50%.
Wait, really? Just from doing math?
Just from the cognitive strain.
Yeah.
Your heart rate would spike. Your blood pressure would literally rise. That is System 2 working at its maximum capacity. It is an agonizing, frantic state for the brain.
Yeah, okay, I concede. Just doing that one short sequence, I felt a weird tightness in my forehead. I definitely wouldn't want to live in that state for more than a few minutes.
Which is exactly why you don't. Your brain naturally defaults to a mental stroll whenever possible. System 2 is essentially incredibly lazy.
It just doesn't want to work.
Right. It delegates everything it possibly can to System 1. And, to be fair, System 1 is a magnificent marvel of evolution.
How so?
Well, it effortlessly reads a billboard on the highway as you whiz past. It instantly detects a subtle hint of disappointment in your partner's voice before they even finish a sentence. It can catch a ball thrown at your head without doing conscious physics calculations.
Sure, yeah. But if System 1 is doing all the heavy lifting effortlessly and keeping us alive, why do we even need System 2? What's the catch with the autopilot?
The catch is that System 1 cannot be turned off.
Yeah.
Ever. And it is incredibly easily fooled.
fooled how?
Picture two horizontal lines drawn on a piece of paper. One line has fins on the ends pointing outward, like the tail feathers of an arrow. The other line has fins pointing inward, like the tip of an arrow.
Oh, right. I've seen this visual puzzle, the Miller-Lire illusion, right?
Exactly.
The line with the inward pointing fins always looks significantly longer.
But if you take a ruler and measure them, they are exactly the same length. Now, here is the crucial philosophical part of this.
Okay.
Even after your system 2 takes the ruler, measures the lines, and knows for an absolute objective fact that they are identical, you still see one as longer.
That's true. I know the trick, but my eyes still lie to me.
Exactly. System 1 continues to feed you the optical illusion. You cannot simply command your brain to see them as equal.
Okay, let's unpack this because here's where it gets really interesting. If I can't even trust my own eyes to see straight lines accurately when I know the truth, how can I trust my mind with complex life decisions?
That is the big question.
If I use an analogy here, it's like think of System 1 as a highly efficient but incredibly gullible assistant.
Oh, I like that.
And System 2 is a brilliant but chronically lazy CEO. The assistant is constantly feeding the CEO memos, impressions, feelings. Hey, boss, this line is definitely longer. And the CEO just signs off on it without checking the math. But if the CEO is so smart, why are they so eager to just blindly rubber stamp the assistant's flawed work?
Well, what's fascinating here is the underlying biological mechanism called ego depletion.
Ego depletion.
Yeah. Self-control and logical, deliberate thought aren't just abstract concepts. They literally draw from a shared, highly limited pool of mental energy. It's like a daily budget.
Okay, so it runs out.
Exactly. If you spend your morning forcing yourself to focus on a tedious spreadsheet, or even just using willpower to resist eating a donut in the break room, you deplete that budget. The CEO gets tired.
Ah,
And when System 2 is fatigued or overwhelmed, it stops scrutinizing the assistant's memos. It just defaults to whatever quick answer System 1 suggests, simply to conserve power.
so the lazy CEO delegates to the gullible assistant because the company is out of budget. And because of that, we spend the rest of our day relying on mental shortcuts, which must be where the predictable flaws in this invisible machinery start to show up.
Yes, they lead directly to systematic, predictable errors in our judgment. Because System 1 is desperate to give the tired CEO a quick, easy answer, it acts as a machine specifically designed for jumping to conclusions.
Always looking for the shortcut.
Right. There's a foundational concept here called WISIATI, which stands for what you see is all there is.
What you see is all there is. Okay.
System 1 takes whatever limited information is immediately available in the moment and constructs the best, most coherent story out of it. It completely ignores the fact that crucial contradictory information might be missing.
Let's make that concrete for the listener. How does this WISIATI mechanism actually play out in real life, outside of a psychology lab?
Well, let's play a game. Imagine I tell you about a potential new manager joining your company. I say, will Mindic be a good leader? She's intelligent and strong. What is your immediate gut reaction?
I mean, yes. Intelligent and strong are great traits. I'd hire her on the spot.
Notice how quickly you formed that definitive judgment. Your System 1 heard two positive adjectives and instantly spun a coherent narrative of a highly capable leader. But what if my very next words were going to be corrupt and cruel?
Oh. Well, then my answer is a hard no.
Right.
But my brain didn't even wait for the rest of the sentence to decide. It didn't pause to ask, wait, is there any negative context I should wait for before I make a call?
It didn't, because evolutionarily, pausing to gather more data before jumping to a conclusion could mean getting eaten by a predator in the bushes.
Better to be fast than right.
Speed was prioritized over accuracy, exactly. Your mind does not naturally look for what it doesn't know. It just builds a reality out of what's right in front of it. And the most dangerous part is the resulting illusion of validity.
What does that mean?
Because System 1 weaves such a compelling, seamless story out of those few facts, we feel a profound sense of confidence in our judgments.
Even when our judgments are entirely baseless.
Especially then. There is a deeply illuminating historical case study regarding the Israeli army.
Oh, yeah.
Decades ago, they had psychologists evaluating young soldiers on an artificial obstacle course to determine who would make a good officer.
Okay, seems standard.
The evaluators would watch a group struggle with a physical puzzle for an hour, and they would feel absolute, undeniable certainty about who the brave natural leaders were and who the weak followers were. The story of each soldier's true character just seemed painfully obvious to the observers.
Right, but an hour on a contrived obstacle course isn't exactly the stress of a real combat zone. I'm going to assume those confident predictions didn't hold up.
They tracked the actual performance of those soldiers months later in formal officer training. The psychologist's predictions were barely better than blind guesses.
Wow, barely better than guessing.
Their confident evaluations were essentially useless.
Okay, so obviously they stopped using the obstacle course once they saw the hard data, right?
Yeah. This is the kicker. They kept doing the assessments. And even after knowing, statistically, that their predictions were garbage, the evaluators still felt the exact same overwhelming subjective confidence the very next time they watched new soldiers on the course.
That's crazy.
Knowing the truth didn't break the feeling of certainty. Just like the Miller-Lyer illusion with the lines. Subjective confidence is not a measure of accuracy. It is merely a feeling of cognitive ease.
Let me make sure I'm wrapping my head around this. You're saying that the feeling of confidence just means my brain had a very easy time stringing a story together without any mental friction.
Yes.
It has absolutely nothing to do with whether the story is actually true.
Exactly.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because that is deeply unsettling. Are my own core beliefs even logically sound? I mean, I like to think I formed my political views or my opinions on the economy through careful, rational analysis.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the answer is often no. Most of our beliefs are driven by the affect heuristic.
The affect heuristic.
Yeah. This means our emotional likes and dislikes determine our logic, rather than the other way around. If you emotionally favor a particular social policy, your System 1 automatically generates a feeling that its benefits are massive and its costs are negligible.
So the feelings come first.
The feelings come first. The logic is just backfilled later by System 2 to justify the emotional stance.
So the lazy CEO wakes up just long enough to write a press release defending the gullible assistant's impulsive emotional decision.
That is a brilliant way to conceptualize it.
Yeah.
Yes. The CEO becomes a public relations apologist for the assistant.
Man, this makes me think about how we perceive risk and danger in the modern world. If our brains jump to conclusions simply because a story feels coherent, and if our emotional feelings dictate our logic, are we just walking around experiencing illusions of truth based on what's easiest to imagine?
We absolutely do. And a primary driver of this manufactured reality is the availability heuristic.
Okay, another heuristic.
We judge the probability or the importance of an event by how easily instances of it come to mind. We completely ignore the actual boring statistics. For example, consider the fear of dying in a shark attack versus the fear of dying from falling parts of an airplane.
I mean, if I'm swimming in the ocean, I'm definitely thinking about sharks. I don't think I've ever stood on the beach, looked up at the sky, and worried about a Boeing 747 dropping a wing flap on me.
But statistically, you are vastly more likely to be killed by falling aircraft parts than by a shark.
Really?
Yes. However, System 1 doesn't do complex statistics. It processes vivid imagery and narrative. A shark attack is terrifying, cinematic, and plastered all over the news for weeks when it happens.
Like Jaws.
Right. It is highly available in your memory, so
Yeah.
your brain tricks you into feeling it is a highly probable, imminent threat.
Which perfectly explains why society can get whipped up into an absolute panic over incredibly rare, sensational events we see on the news, while completely ignoring mundane things that are statistically far more dangerous, like poor diet or texting while driving.
Exactly. When you understand the availability heuristic, you realize how easily media coverage can warp public perception and drive irrational societal policies.
So what does this all mean for us as individuals? If my intuition is this systematically flawed, and my conscious CEO is this lazy, how do I actually navigate life? Am I doomed to just be a passenger on this erratic autopilot?
Not entirely doomed, no.
Okay, good. How do I force my CEO to actually do their job when it matters?
To reclaim control, you first have to practice recognizing when System 1 is actively trying to pull a fast one on you. You need to experience the error firsthand. Let me give you a classic cognitive puzzle to demonstrate how this feels.
Okay,
Just say the very first answer that pops into your head. Ready?
I'm ready. Bring it on.
A bat and a ball cost $1.10 in total. The bat costs $1 more than the ball. How much does the ball cost?
10 cents, obviously.
That is the answer that comes immediately, intuitively, to almost everyone.
Yeah.
It feels beautifully coherent. The dollar and the 10 cents break apart perfectly in the mind.
Wait, I can see you smiling. I'm wrong, aren't I?
You might want to run the numbers again.
Let me actually think about this for a second. If the ball is 10 cents and the bat is $1 more than the ball of yore, the bat would be $1.10, which makes the total $1.20.
There you go.
Oh, Okay, I fell right into the trap. The ball has to be 5 cents, then the bat is $1.05. Total is $1.10.
You figured it out. But what's truly remarkable is that over 50% of students at elite institutions like Harvard, MIT, and Princeton get this wrong in controlled studies.
Seriously, over half.
Yes, they confidently blurt out the intuitive 10-cent answer. It takes literally 3 seconds of mental effort for System 2 to check the math. But the intuitive answer is so compelling, so cognitively easy, that their brilliant Ivy League System 2 just rubber stamps it without verifying.
So how do I deliberately trigger that 3-second check before making a fool of myself? Or worse, before making a terrible financial or major life decision?
Researchers actually found a fascinating physical hack to trigger that mental check. They gave students cognitive puzzles, just like the bat and ball problem. Half the students were told to puff out their cheeks while solving them.
Puff out their cheeks, okay.
The other half were given a different instruction. They were told to furrow their brows and physically frown.
Just frown, like make an angry, concentrating face.
Yes, just frown. And the students who frowned were significantly less likely to fall for the intuitive traps. They were much more accurate.
Why would frowning make you better at math?
Because frowning is a biological, physical manifestation of cognitive strain. It sends a feedback signal to your brain that says, things are difficult right now. There is a problem in the environment.
Oh, wow.
That physical signal of strain acts as a blaring alarm clock for System 2. It strips away cognitive ease, puts the brain on high alert, and forces deliberate, slow thought.
We can literally trick our lazy CEO into waking up and paying attention just by scowling. That is amazing. I'm going to start frowning in every contract I sign from now on.
It couldn't hurt.
But surely we don't want to live our lives frowning and overanalyzing everything. Sometimes intuition is actually highly valuable, right? I mean, think of a master chess player or a seasoned firefighter.
This raises an important question. When exactly can we trust the autopilot, and when should we doubt it? The line between genuine expert intuition and the illusion of skill is actually very clear.
What's the line?
The psychologist Herbert Simon defined valid intuition simply as recognition. Take your firefighter example. A fireground commander might walk into a burning building and suddenly yell, "Get out now," moments before the floor collapses. They might claim they just had a sixth sense.
But it's not magic, it's experience.
Correct. The commander has spent thousands of hours in a highly regular, predictable environment. The physics of fire behave consistently. Over years of exposure, their System 1 subconsciously learned the subtle cues.
Like what?
Maybe the fire was unusually quiet, or their ears were feeling hotter than normal. System 1 recognized the hidden pattern of a basement fire drawing oxygen, even if System 2 couldn't articulate the physics in that exact second.
Yeah.
That is valid intuition.
But if I get a confident gut feeling about which obscure tech stock is going to double next month, that's completely different.
Entirely different, because the stock market, much like predicting global politics 10 years from now, operates in what's called a zero-validity environment.
A zero validity?
Yes, it is fundamentally unpredictable and chaotic in the short term. You cannot learn the hidden regularities of a system that has no stable regularities to begin with.
So when the amateur day trader feels certain about a stock, they're feeling the exact same biological sensation of confidence as the expert firefighter, but it's completely manufactured.
Completely.
They're probably just answering an easier substituted question like, do I think this company's logo is cool? Instead of the actual impossible question, is this stock currently mispriced by the market?
It's exactly right. So, to protect yourself from these confident but false stories, especially when making decisions in unpredictable environments, there's a powerful practical tool you can use called the pre-mortem.
A pre-mortem, like the opposite of a post-mortem.
Exactly. Usually before a company or an individual commits to a major decision, they suffer from the planning fallacy. Everyone is delusionally optimistic. System 1 paints a rosy picture of guaranteed success.
Right. Nobody goes into a marriage or a new business venture expecting it to fail. We focus entirely on the best-case scenario.
But the pre-mortem forces you to artificially break that spell of cognitive ease. Before you finalize the decision, you stop your team or yourself and say, imagine it is exactly 1 year from today. We made this choice, we implemented the plan, and it was an absolute catastrophic disaster.
Okay, sounds depressing, but go on.
Now, take 5 to 10 minutes and write down a brief history of exactly how that disaster happened.
Okay, I absolutely love that. You're giving System 2 a specific negative puzzle to solve.
Exactly.
You're forcing it to actively hunt for hidden flaws and missing information, instead of just passively admiring the shiny presentation System 1 put together. You're essentially building artificial speed bumps into your own mind.
That's the perfect analogy,
Yeah.
because you cannot live your life in a state of constant frowning vigilance. If you try to overthink every casual conversation, every minor email, and every route to work, you will be paralyzed by ego depletion before lunch.
Right. You'd be exhausted.
The ultimate goal is compromise. You let System 1 drive on the familiar, empty highways of daily routine. But when you approach a high-stakes minefield, hiring an employee, investing your life savings, choosing a life partner, you physically and mentally slow down. You demand data over gut feelings. You force a premortem. You grab the steering wheel.
It really is a profound shift in perspective. To realize that my subjective experience of reality isn't an objective documentary playing in my head. It's a highly stylized, edited movie directed by a hidden, rushed assistant who actively hates fact-checking.
And realizing that you possess that fundamental blind spot is the first necessary step to eventually seeing the world clearly.
Before we wrap up, I want to leave you, the listener, with a thought that really stretches this whole concept. We've been talking about System 2, our conscious, reasoning self, as the CEO, the one who's supposed to be in charge but is just lazy.
Right.
But given everything we've discussed about how System 2 mostly just invents rationalizations for System 1's emotional impulses, what if our conscious self isn't the CEO at all? What if System 2 is just the PR department?
Oh, wow.
Its only real job isn't to make the decisions, but to craft a convincing, logical-sounding story that makes us look rational to ourselves and to the rest of the world. Think about that the next time you find yourself passionately explaining exactly why you needed to buy that expensive gadget.